Olin, what did you think of what you saw?
Just disappointed. Came in with a lot of hope that this team was moving in the right direction, that our quarterback and our offensive line could handle what Brian Flores was going to send at them, that we would have a good plan to go up against the Minnesota Vikings. And none of that came out true. Obviously, we lose the turnover differential. Just not the game we want to see coming off that big win Thursday night against the Washington Commanders. And Laurence, you asked a great question in the pregame show. You said, how would they handle winning and success? And it didn't look like they handled it well.
No, it didn't look like they handled it well. And I'd love to know from an actual trained eye, because I probably won't even have a real idea until I go back and watch it. But early on in the game, I felt like the game plan and the game calling was a little bit more conservative than I was expecting on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, and I felt like they were going to move the pocket a little bit for Justin Fields, knowing that Brian Flores was going to come after him a little bit, right? So I know they want to run the ball just to try to get him to stop blitzing, to slow down those blitzes a little bit. But I just felt like keeping him in the pocket and trying to max protect everything wasn't the way to go. Now, Kirk Cousins did burn Coach Flus a little bit early on the blitzes, which probably scared him out of the blitz a little bit. But like you're saying, later in the game, the defense had an edge. They were coming after him a little bit. And I hate to get on the defense when they only gave up 13 points.
Right.
6 of those points was a fumble recovery for a touchdown when Beijing came in. So defense did play well enough to win. Obviously, if you're looking at just this game and why you lost, right, the turnover battle was huge. The fact that the offense could have moved the ball was huge. But in the bigger picture, Laurence, the frustrating thing was the hope was coming to this game. We're going to see these young players still playing well, still taking a step. Now, they did run behind Darnell Wright early, and he was dominant early. They lose Nate Davis on that sideline. They got to go to Jatari Carr. They got to bench Cody Whitehair for snaps. Just a lot going on in this game that reminded us this is a young football team that has a lot of improving to do and a lot of proving themselves to do there at Hallis Hall.
You were talking about it in the pregame show when we talked to Mark Grody. And Mark Grody had talked about how, there weren't a lot of practice snaps that were being taken by the quote unquote backup center. And it's so interesting to me that you could live in a space where you're not doing everything possible to be prepared to play. And forget about like all the work that goes into preparing for a guy like Brian Flores. The simplicity of ball security and getting the ball to the quarterback seemed to be lost in what's happened over the last 10 days.
Yeah, and they talked about Wet Ball Wednesday, right? So they are concentrating, I guess, on ball security. But I just found that an interesting comment to make that the backup center did go away from snapping the ball. So when Grody said that today, obviously as a former center, I was a little, I guess you would say, taken aback by it, right? I was like, that doesn't make any sense to me. He should have at least be snapping to Beijing pre-practice, right?
Absolutely.
And working on these things that we have to work on, and getting some work throughout practice, maybe in the late week 2-minute drill where the offense goes against the defense and it's live there. But like you're saying, Laurence, but look, man, Cody Whitehair this goes back to the plan, right? You have to always go back to the plan and who planned for him to be a center. You have 2 staffs now 3 coaching staffs decided that Cody Whitehair wasn't a center, right? So your early plan in the year, to me, is just fascinating that, but we're going to be the ones that move Cody to center, right? Cody is a good left guard, solid NFL left guard, plays at a pretty high level there at left guard, but we're going to move him all around. And to me, you're just kind of playing with fire there.
We're going to be here until 5 o'clock. We're going to take your phone calls and your text messages. 312-644-6767. I imagine some people are making it to their car right now. The folks that were watching at home are furious and frustrated. And Olin's right. This was the game where if you had any sort of thought of getting yourself back into contention inside of the NFC North or just the NFC playoff picture, this was a game that you had to win. And you had everything looking your way. You had extra time to prepare and to rest and to get injured players back on the field, and a bunch of those players got back on the field, and it seemed to make a difference defensively for the Bears in this game. You had momentum, the idea of you won a game and you knew what that felt like. You were the healthier team because their star player was not available in this game. And that's the performance that you got. Not great. Not great at all.
No, not at all, Laurence. If you go back to the first play of the game, right after the first kickoff return by Velus Jones, who had a pretty good return there, I'm just watching it, Laurence, and I'm thinking you're an empty formation. Like, this isn't Aaron Rodgers, right? You're an empty formation, and Woonham comes free and gets a sack. And obviously, that's Justin Fields' guy. Like, he has to know they brought too many guys for the offensive line to pick up, right? Like, he has to know that. But it just seems to me, again, you're trying to fit him into Aaron Rodgers' offense. Like, if you're the OC and I'm the OC, if I have Aaron Rodgers and you're blitzing me, I say, good. I spread the field and I pick you apart, right? But if I have Justin Fields, I'm going to be a little more creative with trying to get him out of the pocket, running the ball behind Darnell Wright early. But then the first play of the game, you put him in empty where he has to read the defense, he has to read the blitz, and now he's hit on the first play of the game and he misses the blitz. I mean, it's just I don't know, and that falls on both of them. I'm not taking the blame off Justin Fields. He has to know that extra guy is coming. He has to get the ball out. But it's just kind of, to me, to put him in that situation that early, it's just an interesting decision to me.
It is, and there's a lot that we will discuss here on the Great Clips postgame show presented by Tullamore Dew. But let's get to some phone calls to start things off. 312-644-6767. We are live and local. Let's start with Chris in Evanston. Hey, Chris, you're on the score.
Hey, what's going on, guys? You guys been hearing me say it now for 3 years, but we're in a different position right now. I mean, this is not some vaunted defense. It's just a defense that blitz. And a quarterback's got to figure out, like Olin just said, where's the pressure coming from? He has a responsibility. I don't hear any other quarterback get more excuses made in 3 years for why he's not successful. I'm just tired of watching it. I watched Oregon, Washington last night with my guy Penix. I mean, we got the future of the franchise on the line. This is the guy we're going to stick with. This is the guy we're going to stick with. Get rid of him now. I didn't see nothing today that makes me believe, we lit up the worst defense in the NFC last week. And when I watched the all 12, he's throwing balls after the receiver's already on a hitch route, and then the receiver goes for 150 yards after the catch. I mean, what are we doing here? What are we holding on to this guy for?
I appreciate the phone call. If you were watching the All 12, then you were watching the Canadian Football League. So I mean, I don't know what CFL team is in Chicago, but I want to get their jersey if they're here.
Yeah. Well, and to his point, Laurence, I mean, today was a step back for Justin Fields, right? And
we
talked about in the pregame, we talked about this is what happens in the NFL, man. You have 1-2 really good games, and then the system you have to prove yourself against, the one you struggle the most against, the defensive coordinator that you have to prove to everybody you can beat this kind of defense. All of a sudden, that guy shows up, man. But that's why the NFL is great. And Justin Fields had a chance today. Now, it wasn't all on him, right? The offensive line, we talked about air traffic controller in the pregame show. The offensive line struggled organizing the blitz and picking it up, as you saw, with running backs on big guys. That's not supposed to happen, and that means somewhere, somehow, the communication got messed up.
You would think that Danielle Hunter would be a guy that you would circle and say, we cannot have just a running back block this guy. What happens on a play like that? Is that something not getting relayed out to Darnell Wright in that situation?
Yeah, it sure looked like it. It looked to me like they slid the line late. Like they had one protection on, and then they try to redirect it right at the snap, which it happens sometimes, but that goes back again to not playing a lot of center and not knowing the timing of, okay, now I can make a call. Now I better let it go. I'd be lying to you if I didn't say I made that mistake many a times, right? You're out there trying to make a play as a center. You're out there also as a center trying to be a multiplier and get your offense in the best position to execute a play. But you just have to realize you have a young rookie right tackle. He may not get the call. You have a new right guard. So Nate Davis is not there. So does Ja'Tari Carter, now you have to make the call. Ja'Tari Carter has to relay the call to a rookie right tackle. He has to change the protection on the run. It's just things like that, Laurence, that go on within the snap. It's not an excuse. It's what happens, and they do have to get that right. But that's how something like that happens in that situation.
Let's go out to Steven, who's calling us. Hey, Steven, you're on the score.
Hey, guys. What a disappointing, utter incompetent performance by the Bears and the entire coaching staff. And, they had 11 days to prepare for this game. And yet, throughout the game, the Bears' offensive line couldn't hold up against the Vikings' blitz, with 6 and 7 man passing fronts. And then they didn't even adjust to it very well in the game. And watching Danielle Hunter just walk past Darnell Wright and just slam Fields, which caused that wrist injury, probably was the sign that maybe Fields' time in Chicago is over, and probably the end of the 2023 season as well, because this team is not going anywhere with Tyson Bagent as a quarterback. He did rally, but that interception was severely underthrown, which kind of shows his limitations. So I hope, the Bears fans are probably going to stop saying that he's the answer or any of that kind of nonsense moving forward. And, both Eberflus and Getty, unfortunately, just can't seem to build upon any sort of a success as the coaches. And this is more on the coaches than the players in regards to the today's loss, in my opinion. And I'm done with both of them because they haven't proven anything, and they can't be consistently trusted to lead this organization. Thank you, guys.
Appreciate the phone call, Steven. Olin, what do you think of what you hear from Steven when he's talking about how the coaching staff deserves a big brunt of the blame for this game?
Yeah, Steven is right on some points and wrong on others, right? When you listen to him talk about Daniel Hunter walking past right, I think that was actually a 3-man rush, and it was after a while when Justin Fields was rolling around that pocket.
Yep.
And then as far as Bagent goes, he got hit on that ball. That's why he didn't get it out there. But as far as the coaching staff goes, today was just disappointing all around, right, Laurence? Like we talked about, how do you handle winning? You heard Robert Smith, the great running back from the Minnesota Vikings before and at Ohio State, talking about details. When teams are this close, it's all about details. And really, you could say, if you look at the stats and the way the teams played and moved the ball, you could say the Bears outplayed the Minnesota Vikings, but the takeaways killed them, right? And that's why the Minnesota Vikings were losing all the games. They were leading takeaways. Today, they win the takeaway battle. It does fall on the coaching staff to get the team ready. Laurence, you said, and I'll keep repeating this, you said, how are they going to handle winning? And when you ask that question, it's the coaching staff that has to set the tempo in the building, set the standard, and let the team know immediately that the win against the Washington Commanders is over, and all that feel good that we were going through is out the door, and we got to beat the Minnesota Vikings.
So we're waiting for word from the locker room, and I don't expect that we'll get a bigger update than the one that we got during the game. Justin Fields' throwing hand, so his right hand, it was the reason that he was out. And, I mean, I hate to put an injury on a player, but what you said, Olin, where we're talking about held 3-man rush on that play, 5-man protection, and you hold the ball for so long that then you get stuck in a situation where you don't accept the sack and you're trying to throw the ball out of bounds, and it puts you in a precarious position and you end up hurting your hand. When a player doesn't return, that's always a bad sign. When they go from questionable to out inside of a game, that's always a bad sign. My hope is that this was just a precaution and they're going to find out that Justin Fields is okay, but it doesn't seem like that is the case.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it, and it looked like that right wrist or whatever he had hurt there. I don't want to take any guesses, but it looked like it was a pretty bad injury just by the look on his face, right? And they also lose their right guard, doesn't come back in the game, right? So two of the guys that we gave a lot of credit to last week for the Bears playing well and looking like we didn't expect them to look. They go out of the game. You know, it's the situation that even though they played bad all game, the situation that the backup quarterback was in that's the situation we want to see Justin Fields in, right? Trying to win the game late in the game and drive the team down even after playing bad all game. So it's too bad we don't get to see him because he gets injured there. And like you're saying, probably takes an unnecessary hit there in the pocket.
That's you know what? That is a very, very, I like the diplomatic way that you said that, Olin. That is, I'm going to use that this week. Alex is out in Lakeview. Hey, Alex, you're on the score.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
My biggest issue, I'm doing well, thank you. But my biggest issue here was right away when Fields was out there playing, they were run heavy, and we're out of our top backs. And I know Dante Foreman's a great guy. He's a great back. But when you run heavy and then you get Batchin in there, and then they change to a pass offense, I would have loved to see what that would have done. However, that makes me see maybe the coaching has trust issues with Fields. I have no idea what's going on there, but it seems very odd to me that they would change up their play calling so vividly in that second half.
I don't know about you, Olin, but it doesn't seem that strange to me where you have a rookie quarterback who's taking a major leap in the type of players that he's going up against. I feel like to get him comfortable, you have to rely on a run game to just get him into the game and make it so that he doesn't feel like he has to do it all by himself. Am I off base on that?
No, I know what the caller is saying. They came out and they were having success with the run, right? So Getty kind of stuck with it and was trying to stay with the run and then take shots off of the play action pass. I mean, the only problem I had today was the fact that Laurence, I was texting you during the game. I was like, have they moved the pocket yet? Right?
And they hadn't.
And I don't know. And I don't know if they did today. Like I didn't see a sprint. I didn't see much of a boot. So their plan wasn't to move the pocket to change the aiming point of the defensive line of the blitzes. And it doesn't mean you do that on every play, right? It doesn't mean you boot and sprint, but it does mean you do it, right? It does mean you do move the launching point so the defense can't just run at one spot. And you know, with the Vikings, it kind of reminds me of, I don't know if you, I'm sure you remember, but Jim Johnson, the old defense coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles,
come get
who
you.
used to love to blitz. Yeah, and they would green dog, which means if their guy blocked, they would come get you. That means you can't have enough guys in the block, right? So it reminds me of that. So even if you go a 7-8 man protection, eventually you're going to be outnumbered. Eventually you're going to have a lot of one-on-ones, especially after you lose Nate Davis. That was the only part of the plan that I didn't like.
This is the Great Clips postgame show presented by Tullamore Dew. I'm Laurence Holmes sitting in for Mully. Olin Kreutz is here. We've got a lot to discuss, and we're going to continue to take your phone calls, 312-644-6767. You can also text the show if you want, and you can watch on Twitch. The show is on Twitch, twitch.tv/Chicago670 The Score. Let's go out to Jason, who's in Plainfield. Hey, Jason, you're on The Score.
Yeah, hey, how you guys doing?
Good. What's up?
We were at the game today, and it just was very lackluster. They didn't look like they were pushing very hard in defense, offense, kind of sitting back a little bit. I'd like to see a little more like aggression, right? They didn't go very hard. What do you guys think about that?
So, were they aggressive enough is kind of the question here. And I guess you probably have to define what that means. What would it mean to you, Olin, and did you see enough of it?
I guess what he means is the effort that the players are putting forth, right? And I didn't see that. I have to disagree with Jason there. I thought the execution wasn't there. I thought, we weren't picking up the blitzes. We weren't getting the ball out. I thought we weren't recognizing fronts on offense, right? On the offensive side of the ball I'm talking about. And then on defense, obviously pressure continues to be a problem from the front four. But I thought, unlike maybe the Green Bay game when the players said they didn't feel the energy, I thought there was energy in the stadium, and I thought they were trying to get after it and win this game. It just seemed like they couldn't make the play they had to make it, and we couldn't get our best players like DJ Moore involved in the game. Like, there's always guys, right? If you're a coach, Laurence, you have names on your play calling sheet, and I'm sure even on defense you do, and they're your energy starters, right? They're your guys who get your team going. That on the sideline when the team sees this guy make a play, it gets all the juice flowing. So it just didn't seem like they could get those guys the ball.
Before the game, you talked about how we could see more one-on-one with Murphy, that they might not have to bracket him, that they could use some one-on-one situations and man coverage stuff with Murphy. Do you think that he did an effective job of taking more out of the game?
Yeah, I thought that he did, obviously, just by by his numbers, right? While Justin Fields was in the game, I know when Beijing came in, he hit him a couple more times, and he got his numbers up a little bit. But I do think that Murphy is he's a good cornerback, as we all saw, right? And we knew that coming into the game, that they probably felt like they had a good matchup against Moore if they wanted to do what the Commanders did in the second half of last week's game, that Fuller was right there for that interception or tip ball. So if they want to do that, they could also be right there, and they think Murphy is better than Fuller, so they think they got a better shot. And that proved to be true, although a few times, Laurence, I don't know what you thought, but I thought, even though it looks like Moore's covered, let's get him the ball anyway.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that Eberflus said. I actually wrote it down, where he came out at halftime and talked with the reporter at halftime and said that they have to get the ball to DJ Moore, that they have to take opportunities to try to get the ball to DJ Moore. So, I mean, they understood what type of game he had last week and that he should probably, be a force in this game, but you have to be very careful about that. And I wrote it down. It happened at 147. Eberflus said they have to force DJ Moore into the action. That was the quote from the sideline reporter about trying to get DJ Moore involved. They were not able to do that, and they were not able to do a lot of things on offense